I would recommend that you stay away from direct quotes because a lot of the time it is not referenced correctly, and that can be a problem, and that can contribute to a mark deduction for your assessment. Okay, so please make sure that you are paraphrasing everything in this assignment. Sometimes students ask the question of, well, what if I didn't get it from a source, but I got it from my own head? Well, that information came from somewhere. And of course, you are not a credible source. So you need to go and find information to back up your thoughts and opinions. And that is coming from a source. So you still need to reference that. Okay. You should be submitting your assignment through Turnitin. Um, if you are unsure of how to do that, please do ask your lecturers or talk to CRC. And then always save a copy of your assignment before you submit it. That's very important. Okay, just so you have a copy for yourself. If there is an error with the submission or if your lecturer is unable to see it on the other side, at least you do have another copy that you could send through. Okay, and just make sure that you are referencing correctly. You need to be using the IIE referencing guide to assist you. A lot of the time you get a deduction with your marks because you are not referencing correctly. So maybe you do have the reference and you do have the right placement of your in-text and all of that, but the reference style itself is not correct. So please make sure that you are looking at your reference style. This goes for in-text referencing as well as your referencing list. Okay, so this is your cover page. Make sure to read that. And then we have the referencing rubric, which a lot of students do just flip straight through this and they don't read it. I do recommend that you read it to help you in your understanding of how your referencing is going to be marked. So sometimes students get back their paper and they have -5% or -10%, and they don't understand why. And it's because that those students probably did not read the referencing rubric. So just for better understanding for yourself and to make sure that you don't make certain mistakes and certain errors, I do recommend that you read this carefully. Okay, so you have minor errors and then you have your major errors. Your minor errors maybe is you put a full stop before your in-text and not after your in-text, or you didn't in-text correctly. And maybe you've done this maybe once or twice in the assignment. That will be a small deduction of 5%. Your major deduction is when you have completely left out in-text referencing or completely left out a reference list, or maybe you have used the wrong style in your reference list, or your in-text referencing is repeatedly incorrect. These are your major errors. So please make sure if you are unsure of how to in-text reference, please ask your lecturers or speak to someone on campus that will help you with your referencing. Because to lose 5 or 10 marks for referencing is quite a lot. So make sure you read this page. Make sure your style of referencing is consistent throughout your paper, and make sure that it is correct, okay? Because you don't want to have an incorrect reference that you are being consistent with, because that is also a deduction. Okay, so that is your referencing. Make sure you are referencing. I can't stress this enough. Sometimes there's a confusion of when should I reference, where should I put my reference. Whatever theory you take from a source, you need to be referencing that theory. So if you have taken it from your textbook, even if you have paraphrased, you need to reference it. If you have taken it from a journal article, you need to reference it. If it is something that you took from your high school textbook, you need to reference that. Okay, so everything that is taken from another source needs to be referenced. Some assignment instructions that you need to adhere to as well. So you need to read the case study that they provide, because all of your questions are based on that case study. So if you ignore the case study and you go ahead and answer the questions, you'll be missing a lot of information, important information. I would suggest you go to your case study, make sure you read it and understand it, highlight bits that you think are important, read your read through your questions briefly, look at each question and what it's asking of you, try to go back to the case study and just highlight what you think relates to those questions. It's a nice way to just briefly structure your assignment so you know where to find each thing in your case study. Okay, it's not a long case study, it's not too long, but it will just help you like get a highlighter, highlight important bits, go through each question, see what you think question 1.1 is referring to, what 1.2 is referring to. It just helps a lot. Okay, so try that method and see if it does work for you. Remember that your answers require both theory and application. So a lot of the time students make the mistake of only using theory. But remember, your application is actually what is being tested as well. So how you apply yourself. Now, it's important to understand the difference between theory and application, which I feel is not very deeply understood. And this is where a lot of mistakes can be made. Theory is taking information from a textbook or your journal article. It's information that can be used to back up a claim, for example, or can be used to describe something, or can be used as an actual credible fact. Your application is your example. It's how you are applying what you just said to a real life scenario. Okay, so if your theory is like you are asked to give the definition of an entrepreneur, your theory would be your textbook definition. Okay, and your application would be an example of an entrepreneur and what makes him an entrepreneur. So your application should just elaborate what you mean to say. So if you are saying something, giving a description or an explanation, or if you're comparing something, your application is applying yourself. So it is taking that theory and giving an example. Now you'll find that a lot of the questions in this assignment will ask you for the theory and application, and the application needs to come from the case study. So in this case, your examples need to be found in your case study. Okay, so make sure that when you are answering these questions, you are always applying your theory to the case study. Okay. Also ensure that your application component is not generic. Okay, so if what you said can be applied to a different business or scenario, it has not sufficiently been applied. So what that means is, like I just said, the questions will specifically ask you to apply yourself to the case study. This means you cannot give a generic example. You cannot say, for example, Bill Gates. Okay, that is a generic example. That is a generic application. You need to look into your case study and you need to look at specifically what they're asking of you and find that within the case study. Okay, so remember, your application component should not be generic. So that means it needs to be an in-depth explanation of what you're trying to say. Pretend you are telling someone a story. And you know, when you tell someone a story, you always elaborate, you tell them in detail what happened. That is what is required of you in a question. Okay, so you need to look in detail. How can you further explain what is being asked of you? Okay. You are also required to conduct additional research. Now, this is also something that you need to absolutely ensure that you do, because a lot of the time students will only use their textbook. Okay, but you are required to conduct additional research, which means you are required to look at other sources. I would recommend for the questions, look into your textbook first, get the theory from your textbook, do additional research, and add on to that theory. So, for example, if you're looking at entrepreneurship, look at the basis of entrepreneurship from your textbook, and from there, elaborate. And when you are elaborating, you can look into other sources like journal articles, okay, any research articles on Google Scholar or EBSCOhost, all of those different resources that are available to you. Please make sure that you do this. The reason I say and recommend that you do look at your textbook first is that sometimes students will do research on a specific question and will get information that is not entirely correct from a different source. So stick to your textbook for your basic understanding of what is being asked. So, for example, like I said, if you take entrepreneurship, get a basic understanding of what the textbook describes it as, and then you can elaborate on that from additional sources so that you know the information is correct. It's at least it's partially correct if your additional research is not correct. Okay. So those are just some basic instructions that you need to pay attention to. You need to have additional resources. You need to make sure that you have theory and application in all of your questions, and you need to make sure that you read your case study. Okay, so before you even start your assignment, I would say do the basics. So read through everything, go through the questions, highlight your case study, go do additional research, or go to your textbook, find page numbers, write page numbers next to your question, then go and do your additional research. It makes it a lot easier to actually complete your assignment when it's done this way, because you are lessening the stress of like panicking, like where am I going to find my answers, or what does this mean, or where am I going to look in the case study. You do your basics, and then thereafter it's a lot easier to actually complete. Okay, so you do have a case study that they give to you. This is not the full case study. This is just a summarized version of your case study. You need to read your whole entire case study. Basically, there's a group called the HearX group, okay? And it envisions healthy hearing for everyone, everywhere, and aims to make hearing care accessible and also affordable through smart digital healthcare solutions. Okay, it's guided by values of people first, quality, innovation, and trust. And HearX has gained recognition for its impactful, fast-growing, and innovative healthcare offerings, which is led by CEO Nick Klopper, and the company then has a strong leadership and advisory teams as well. Okay, so HearX's product range includes screening tools, self-tests, and hearing conversation solutions. And it achieved a 178.36 average annual growth from 2019 to 2020. Okay, so key projects that they have been involved with include Hear Who, Hear ZA, and some apps, okay, which provide validated mobile-based hearing tests to promote early detection and hearing health worldwide. So reaching hundreds and thousands of users across nearly 200 countries. So do you see how there is, even though this is a summarized version, there's pivotal information contained in this case study. So as you are reading it, what you think is important, highlight that. So highlight it so you have a good understanding. Sometimes when you have a long case study, by the time you finish reading your case study, you forgot what you read right at the beginning. So if you're highlighting things, you are making yourself aware of what you believe is important. So going back to the beginning, it's easier for you to read. It's easier on the eye to remember what's happening because you have selected, you've highlighted what you think is important. It's like a psychological impact on your brain. Okay, so if you highlight something, it's very likely that you will actually remember it, you will think it's important, and will assist you in the rest of your assignments. Okay, so make sure you read the full case study. This is only a summarized version, like I said. Okay, so question 1. Okay, according to Here X Group's website, it has attracted influential and highly qualified individuals to its operations. Okay, so this is according to their website. The question asks you to identify and to discuss the elements of importance in wellness programs in the maintenance phase of Here X. Okay, so this is a 15-mark question. Now, as you can see, there are 2 parts to this question, and this is why I highly recommend going through these questions beforehand, highlighting or underlining these different aspects. Because as you can see, it says identify and discuss, which means there's 2 things this question is asking for you. Firstly, you are supposed to identify these elements of importance in wellness programs. And then you need to discuss the elements. Okay, sometimes students make the assumption that they just have to write down in bullet form, like what is the importance of wellness programs in the maintenance phase. But you are required here to discuss it. And because it is 15 marks, you need to have an in-depth discussion of it. Now, if you remember, in your HR planning learning unit, you have a maintenance phase. So as part of your human resource planning, remember there's 3 phases. One of them is your maintenance phase. So this phase is just about retaining employees, and it is a priority in an organization because you want to ensure that you are retaining your customer base, your employee base, also your customer base. Okay. So what you need to do here is you need to go to your maintenance phase in your textbook, or like I said, get the basic work from your textbook. So go to your textbook, look over in your maintenance phase, look at the importance in wellness programs, look at what it means, have a full understanding of that, and then apply it to Here X. Okay, so firstly, you're going to go to your textbook, you're going to identify the elements of importance here, and then you're going to discuss these elements of importance. And remember, this is in the maintenance phase. So highlight these keywords, highlight, identify, discuss, maintenance phase. Highlight this so you know exactly what you're looking for and exactly what is required of you. And remember, they are asking for the wellness programs in the maintenance phase of Here X. So don't just give the theory from your textbook or from additional sources. You need to give that theory and apply it to Here X. So if you are saying something from your textbook, for example, some theory from your textbook that you've paraphrased, you need to find an example or something in the case study that applies to what you are saying. So it must relate, it must make sense. Make sure that it does relate to what you are saying. Sometimes students don't know how to apply themselves and they do it incorrectly. So you need to make sure that what you are saying actually can be backed up by the theory that you found. Okay, so it's 15 marks. Please write enough, and it's not so much about how much you write, but it's about the content that you're providing. But when I say write enough, I mean go in depth with your explanation, discuss it fully, unpack the elements of importance in the wellness programs. Once you start to unpack it, it's a lot easier to explain each thing and then give an example from here X. Okay, so that is question 1.1. Question 1.2. Identify and analyze the level of management referred to in the case study. That is the first part of this. Okay, so you need to, like I said, get a highlighter, highlight this part of the question, okay, first, and then understand what they are asking you. So they are saying identify and analyze the level of management. First, you need to say what level of management is being referred to in the case study. And you need to analyze this. So when you are being asked to analyze, the question also stipulates this. You need to include a brief explanation, examples of activities and areas of accountability related to here X group. Okay, so when you are analyzing something, think about if you were to do a SWOT analysis. When you're doing a SWOT analysis, you are giving an in-depth explanation of the research that you found, and you are looking at different in different sources. Okay, so here as well, when you're doing your analysis, the word analyze should tell you that you are unpacking this in depth, and it should also tell you that you do need to have more than one source here. Okay, because when you do an analysis, you want to have enough credible information. So you use your textbook, but also do your own research for your own understanding. So in the analysis, do include a brief explanation. Okay, so you're going to look at the level of management, you're going to give an explanation, and you're going to give examples of activities and areas of accountability. So this chosen level of management, give examples of what activities that includes, and also areas of accountability. So what are they accountable for? What do they do? And then once you have given these examples, this explanation, you are going to look at here X group and you are going to relate it to them. Okay, so that's how I would break down the question. Talk about the level of top management that a top, middle, or lower management that has been identified. Okay, whichever one you think it is and whichever one is most applicable. Remember, you have your hierarchy. You have top at the top, you have middle, and then you have lower. Okay, so go back, look at that hierarchy, look at management, look at what each level does, what each activity each level is accountable for, what responsibilities do they have, and then go and look at your case study and then look at which one of those three is most applicable to the case study. And that is how you can identify the level of management that's being referred to in the case study. Okay, so take your time, read it, make sure you have a good understanding of the different levels of management. And then you need to provide a brief explanation in your analysis. Take information from the case study when it comes to your application. So go back to the case study, try to find examples that is going to almost correspond with what you are saying. So if you are choosing a specific level of management, go and find examples in the case study that tells you why, or that tells the marker why you think that this is the right level. Okay, so just justify that. And this is also 15 marks. So again, break your question down. Highlight the important bits. Make sure you have answered everything here. So make sure you have identified it. A lot of the time, students forget to identify. And what identify means is you need to stipulate which level of management is being referred to. Okay, and then your next part is analyzing the level of management that's referred to in the case study. So analyzing it, it even tells you how you need to analyze it. You need to include your brief explanation, and you need to give examples of activities and areas of accountability, and that all relates to the here X group. So don't give an example that is generic. Don't give a very brief, vague example. You need to have a specific example from your case study. Okay. And then 1.3. So here you are tasked to explain the purpose of a vision statement and the elements required for a good vision. Okay, so again, there are two parts to this question. First of all, you have explained the purpose of a vision statement. Okay, highlight that. Then you have the elements required for a good vision. Okay, highlight that. And now you have to use it to evaluate how here X's vision statement. So that is your application. So you have two parts that is requesting for you to have theory, and then you have one part that is your application. So what you need to do is firstly go ahead and explain the purpose of a vision statement. What is a vision statement? Okay, what is the purpose of it? Why does it exist? Remember, go back to your learning unit. I'm not too sure which learning unit this is, but it would have been right at the beginning. And go get a good understanding of what a vision statement is. Okay, remember your vision statement forms part of your internal business environment, which means it is something that we do have control over. Okay, so it can change. It's once it's written, it can be changed. But remember, some characteristics of a good vision statement, just in general, what you would have learned, and this also goes for also a mission statement as well, just something to remember for your upcoming exam. Okay, so a good vision statement, it should be short, it should be specific, it should be straight to the point. All of those little elements, if you can remember back from, I think it was chapter 3. So go back, look at the purpose of a vision statement, get a good understanding. Remember, it plays a crucial role in an organization, and almost every organization, every big corporation will have a vision statement, will have a mission statement, will have goals and objectives. These are important aspects of the internal environment that corporations will have. So if you look into any company, and if you do research on that company, you will find a vision statement. Okay, so go search up Pick and Pay's vision statement or Checkers vision statement, and you will see what a vision statement looks like. And then go and see, how does that vision statement actually serve the business? What's the purpose of it? Okay, to have a better understanding. Okay, so once you have explained the purpose of your vision statement, you're going to look at the elements that are required for a good vision statement. So what are some things that we must have in our vision statement that will make it what it is, that will make it powerful, that will make it impactful and effective? Okay, so go over those things. Look at like different elements, like how does it impact the goal of the business, or how does it create a, like, does it create a competitive advantage? Look at all of those little things. Okay, and then use that information that you just found to evaluate here X's vision statement. So when they ask you to do this, when they are asking for an evaluation, you are basically taking what you just said and you're using that as almost like a criteria to analyze this here X's vision statement. So you're looking at their vision statement and you are looking at your elements that you have just stated that is required for a good vision, and you are making an evaluation. So you are looking at whether or not it is a good statement as compared to what you said. So does it actually have those elements of a good statement? Okay, so that is how you can evaluate it. So you can list your elements for a good vision statement, and then you can go ahead and look at here X's vision statement, and you can almost use that information like in comparison to a good vision statement, and just have like just evaluate for yourself as well. Like, do you believe that this is a good vision statement? And provide an explanation for that. Okay, so when it's asking you to evaluate your X's vision statement, all you are doing is going ahead, taking that vision statement and just looking at whether or not it is a good vision statement. Yeah, so I hope that does make sense. Remember, this is 20 marks. So you need to break down this question bit by bit. You need to make sure you are explaining everything. Like I said, students like to ask, how much should we write for 20 marks? But you are not, it's not the word count or the length of your answer, but it's the content that you're providing. So if you have a good explanation, if you have good explanations, if you are answering what is being asked of you, if you have a good grasp on that and if you have a good way of applying yourself, then your answer can be like a short paragraph, for example, but it can have everything that's required. So don't be under the false perception that the more you write, the more marks you will get. Okay, your content needs to be correct for you to actually get those marks. So I hope so far everything does make sense. Question 1.1, question 1.2, and question 1.3. These are quite long questions. I would definitely recommend, if you have not started your assignment, to start immediately, because doing all of this in one night, I promise you, will be quite taxing, quite overwhelming. Okay, try to do 2 questions every day. I think there's 7 questions here. So try to do 2 questions every day so that you are able to complete this on time and you are able to complete it with quality. Because remember, like I'm saying, you are breaking down these questions and answering everything bit by bit. So you want it to be of quality, you want it to be relevant. Okay, you want the information to be correct. So make sure that you are not rushing through this, because when you're rushing through it, when you're doing it the night before, you are leaving out important bits of information that you absolutely need to include. And before we move on, remember, everything so far needs to be referenced. So everything that you do and say, you need to make sure that you have references. Hey, so reference your textbook, reference whatever you like are using, any other sources that you are using, research articles, any journal articles. Try to stay away from Wikipedia, from Investopedia, from all of those pedias. Don't use those as credible sources. When you are looking at other sources, always make sure it is credible. And that's why we say you rather look into journal articles, okay? Credible journal articles that have been like posted, of course, the free ones. So they're much easier to read. Like, don't go buy any journal articles. There are plenty of free journal articles that can assist you. So those are more credible sources than using Wikipedia and Investopedia. So please try to stay away from those. Okay, so moving on to question 1.4. We are asked to discuss the value of technology for entrepreneurs. and to explain how this applies to here X. So again, there are two parts to this question. Please make sure that you are actually answering both of these parts. So again, go and highlight aspects that, well, both of these aspects, and answer them fully. Okay, so discuss the value of technology for entrepreneurs. That is your first part that you need to answer, and then explain how this applies. So it's asking for theory and application here, and this is 10 marks. So make sure that you have both. First, go to your textbook, look at the value of technology for your entrepreneurs. Um, then go ahead and do your other research if need be. Discuss this fully. So have a full in-depth explanation of the value of technology for entrepreneurs. So what it means in all aspects. And then go ahead and explain how this applies to here X. Okay, so make sure that you do this. Answer both parts. Okay, remember you are being assessed on theory and application, and because of that, you need to reference. Okay, reference your discussion, reference your explanations. That is very important. So that's a bit of an easy one. Just make sure you have a good balance between your theory and your application. Okay, and even when you do apply yourself and you are taking your answer from the case study, make sure that you are elaborating on it. So most of the time, students will just copy and paste directly from the case study what they think is the answer. Paraphrase your explanation and add to it. Add how you think this applies to it. Give your own explanation alongside what they are asking. Okay, it really helps in your application and your discussion. And then question 1.5. So here we are discussing technology as a factor that influences the nature of management. Again, there's two parts to this question, so make sure that you highlight both these parts just to ensure that you are answering both of them. Another version of theory and application and how these two need to align. Okay, so discussing technology as a factor that influences the nature of management. Go to the nature of management, look at the nature of management. Okay, technology is a factor that does affect management. So discuss that. How does it affect management? What does it mean for management? How does it influence management in a positive way, in a negative way? That's the discussion. So whenever you are asked to discuss something, that's what it is. You are just evaluating it. You are giving an in-depth explanation. You are simply just stating everything that you know about the topic. Okay, so discussing it. So just like how you would tell a friend a story, for example, or what happened to you over the weekend. It's a discussion. So discuss technology as a factor that influences the nature of management, and then you are going to apply this to here X. Now, in your application, make sure it is relevant to the question. So if your question is asking you for looking at technology as a factor that influences management, take that same concept to your case study and look at how technology could affect management in this case. Okay. So again, this is going to require additional research. You are going to be required to look at other sources apart from your textbook, but also with your textbook, you are also going to have to read the case study again and again and put all this information together. Okay, it's 15 marks. So that is a lot. So you don't give like a definition of technology as a factor that influences the nature of management only and then give a small example. That is not enough for 15 marks. You need to have an in-depth discussion of what technology is as a factor, okay, that can influence management. and then how you can apply this. Okay, so that one again, please reference everything. Reference where you are getting your information from. Please do not use AI sources to answer these questions. Okay, you should not be using those to answer your questions. You should be using your textbook or other sources such as journal articles. You cannot use an AI source to answer these questions because I promise you a lot of the information will not be what is actually being asked of you. And that happens quite a bit. Okay, sometimes you think that you're asking AI a question and it's generating this perfect response, and that is what that's what will be correct, and it actually is not. So I would really, really suggest that you do not do that. Okay, so not only will you most likely get in trouble for that, but you also will get that answer wrong. Okay, so 90% of the time that is the case. So stick to your textbook, stick to other information sources, such as if you have other textbooks, if you have journal articles, stick to those. Okay. And always paraphrase. Do not copy and paste. Paraphrase your work. Okay, 1.6. Explain what business management is. Okay, so this is something that you would have uh, learned right at the beginning. Right at the beginning, when you started learning Unit 1, you would have been introduced to what business management is. Okay, what's the importance of business management? What does it entail? And all of those things. So it might take some refreshing, okay, going right back to the beginning, refresh your mind on what business management is and how this concept applies to Heart X. Okay, so if you are explaining what business management is, you are giving your explanation. So give a definition, talk about what it is, what's the importance of it. Here you need to give a lot of theory. Okay, it is 10 marks. You need to balance out your theory and application. So again, highlight, explain what business management is, and then highlight how this concept applies to here X, because that is your second part. So how does this concept apply? Okay, so what business management is, and then how does it apply to that? Remember, it's a concept, so you are basically just taking something that aligns to that concept from the case study, something that will justify almost what you just said. Okay. And then the last question, we have question 1.7. So entrepreneurs have various characteristics and skills. We know this. Okay. If you flip into the chapter of entrepreneurs, you'll see there are many characteristics and many, many skills. So here we are tasked with discussing the following skills and apply them to entrepreneurs involved in here X. Again, there are two parts to this question. You need to ensure that you are answering everything. If it is 15 marks, it is easy to assume that it could possibly be 5 marks each for each bullet point. So you can use that to structure yourself. You can use that as a to just help you word your answers, not word your answers, but structure your answers. So you're going to discuss the following skills, which is the first one. Okay. So take the entrepreneur has good human relations, for example. Okay, that's the first skill. They're giving it to you. So entrepreneurs have good human relations. That is the first skill. You are discussing that skill. Okay, so what is human relations? What is good human relations? What does it mean? When an entrepreneur has good human relations, what does that mean? Okay, and then we're going to discuss in depth what this is and then apply it to the entrepreneurs in the case study. Okay, so do they have good human relation skills? Or maybe they don't have good human relation skills. How does it impact the business? Does it impact the business at all? You need to have a good explanation of that. Okay. So again, balance your theory, balance your application, and you should be good. Okay. Then you have the entrepreneurs willing to take risks. Okay, so first of all, I hope you guys do understand the first bullet points in regards to human relation skills. So if you do remember going back to your entrepreneurship unit, you would have explored what good human relations are, and they're basically your people skills. Okay, so of course, that is important in a business to have people skills, good communication skills. This can help you with negotiating, with meetings, with leading, with organizing, controlling, all of those things. So, good human relation skills is a very crucial skill for an entrepreneur or anyone in business for that matter. So, that's simply what good human relation skills relates to. Okay, and then when we have the entrepreneurs willing to take risks, remember these are calculated risks. So they are risks that have been weighed, they are risks that have been evaluated, they are risks that have been assessed and researched, and um, yeah, they've been looked into. So an entrepreneur is not going to just take a risk based on no evidence. There will obviously be research that he does, and this research will allow him to make informed decisions. So the willingness to take risks simply applies to you have all the evidence you need of something, but are you going to take that chance? Okay, so that's simply what it means. So here you're going to discuss that skill in depth. You are going to go into your textbook, or you're going to go into an additional resource that you have, and you are going to identify, well, it's been identified for you, but you need to elaborate what that is. Okay. And then from there, you need to apply it to the entrepreneurs involved in here X. Okay. And then you have the entrepreneur is creative and also innovative. So that is important. Entrepreneurs should be creative and innovative. This does not mean that every entrepreneur needs to create something that's never been thought of before, because that is a tough thing to do. Okay, so if you think about it, it's not very easy to think of something on the spot. Like if you tried to do that, um, it would be difficult to do. So when we talk about creativity and innovation, we are talking about being creative and innovative in all aspects of business. So whether that is a promotional strategy, whether that is creating really unique packaging for your product, what entrepreneurs do a lot, because thinking of something brand new can be difficult. So what they will do is they will take a concept that already exists. So for example, a water bottle. Okay, that concept exists. It's not a new concept. It's been around for a while. So they will take that concept and they will look at how can we make this different? How can we make it unique? How can we use this to create a trend or create a hype in the market? Okay, so that's what they'll do there, and that is putting a creative spin on it. So you are taking any concept that already exists. It can even be a pen. And how can we make this pen different? That is using your creativity and in your innovation. There are entrepreneurs that think of things that have never been thought of before, and those are big risks. Okay, those are taking big risks because these are products that no one has heard of before. So you need to look at the likelihood of them actually liking the product or not. We have people that when something brand new enters into the market, they are a bit reluctant. So yeah, you need to, that also ties hand in hand with having the ability to take risks. Okay, so again, you're going to now elaborate on the creativity and innovation of an entrepreneur. Okay, why is it important for them to have this skill? Discuss that in depth and then apply it to the entrepreneurs in the case study. Okay, so your application again needs to be in depth and it must relate to what you are saying. Now, all of this, as you can see, is 100 marks. Please do not forget to include a reference list at the end of your assignment. It is very easy to forget that because once you're done with question 1.7, you just want to be free and you don't really want to do anything more. But you must include a reference list. Okay, you can get flagged for plagiarism if you leave it out. Either that or your lecturer can mark you down to 10%. Okay, so sometimes just taking those few minutes to check your referencing, to check your reference list, your in-text is worth it because you don't want to have a -10 or -5. Okay, that can keep you from a distinction. So make sure you are adhering to the IIE style of referencing. If you don't know what that is, please refer to your referencing guide or ask your lecturer to assist you with locating your referencing guide. The referencing guide will show you what you need to include. It will show you the style. It will give you an example of how to reference. Okay, for those of you who are not sure how to reference. A lot of the time, what I like to suggest students do is complete your assignment early. And that way you can have your lecturer just tell you if your referencing is okay. Maybe not go through the whole assignment and check it for you, but just to check that your reference list is correct or your in-text is correct, and so that you have some guidance with that. Because a lot of the time what happens is that you do your assignment last minute, you forget to include the little things, and that does impact your final mark. Okay, another thing you need to make sure to do is to submit on time. Now, there are students that will submit their paper like 5 minutes after midnight. Please make sure you are not doing that, because if you have a late submission, it is -15%, and that is a lot. So imagine you're losing 15%, and imagine your in-text is not correct, so it's another 10% or another 5%. So it is really not worth it to be delayed with the assignment. It's not worth it to do it last minute. It's too many marks to play around with, so you want to make sure that you are submitting on time. I would really recommend you submit the morning or the early evening, like around maybe 6 that evening, just to be safe. Because what happens is when everyone is submitting on the same day, sometimes your assignment, you never know, it can be delayed. There can be some delays. Don't submit it at 11:57, for example, as you don't know how long it's going to take to actually go through. Sometimes it goes through within a second. Sometimes there are errors. Okay, sometimes the system, like it's technology, something can happen to it. So please make sure that it is on your checklist to submit your assignments early. Okay, it is for your own good, and it is also so that you do not lose valuable marks that could possibly lead you to having a distinction. Okay, so don't rob yourself of that opportunity. So this is pretty much what your assignment is. And if, like I said, if you have any questions on these questions, then please feel free to go ahead and email me, or you can reach out to your lecturer, and I'm sure that you will be assisted. Okay, I'm going to move on to some keywords that can help you in this assignment. It can also help you in future assessments and also your exam that is coming up. So for your tests, what I have observed is that some of you don't understand what these key question words are asking you to do. Sometimes it is confusing. Sometimes they're very similar. Sometimes you don't really understand what it's asking of you. So I'm gonna go through the most common ones and just help you get more insight on what these keywords are, so that it can assist you in this assignment, your upcoming exam, and also any other future assessments that you have. Okay, it will be very helpful for those. So you have to analyze. So when you analyze, and this is in your assignment, so pay attention to this. So when you are asked to analyze, you are breaking the topic into parts. Okay, so think about a SWOT analysis. Um, SWOT analysis, you guys know, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It is being broken down into parts. Okay, you are examining relationships, patterns, causes, and effects. So you are examining anything that has a relationship with the topic. Okay, so when you are asked to analyze something, you are basically being asked to give any evidence, any information, any possible patterns, relationships, anything, positive influences, negative influences, impacts, effects, all of those things can be included in an analysis. Okay, an analysis is there for someone to have a full understanding of a specific topic. Okay, so that's what it is. You have the word assess. Now, you get asked this a lot. They'll say assess something and related to the case study, for example. So here you are being asked to judge the value or the importance of it. When you are assessing something, you are looking at its value. So think about when you go to buy a car or when you go to buy something expensive and there is a big decision to be made. You want to assess the pros and cons of your purchasing decision, right? So you are evaluating whether or not you should get it. And when you assess something, you look for information that can help you make your decision easier. Okay, so you're looking at importance, you're looking at quality, and you are using evidence to help you make this assessment. Okay, so when you are asked to assess something, you need to use evidence to support your assessment because that's going to help a lot. So you are judging the value or you are judging whatever's being asked of you. Okay, so if they're asking you to assess benefits of entrepreneurship in the economy, you are looking at the importance of it. You're looking at why entrepreneurship is valuable in an economy. What is the quality of it? And all of this will be backed up by credible information or credible evidence. Okay, so that is all that is. Then we have compare. This one's easy. This one, is just looking at similarities or looking at differences. Um, Sometimes in an exam or a test, they'll ask you to compare. Okay, so you are looking at, sometimes they'll give you two things, sometimes they'll give you three things, and they'll ask you to compare each thing. So you're giving facts within each, and you are comparing them to each other. Okay, so how did this if we look at top, middle, and lower management, and if you are being asked to compare, you are looking at what does top management entail, what does lower management entail, what does middle entail, and they should preferably be on the same scale of answer. So for example, you'd have a criteria, you'll have if you're comparing the levels of management, first you can look at the activities, compare the activities, how did the activities differ? if you're looking at responsibilities, look at the different responsibilities of each. How did they compare? Okay, so that's what it means. When you are making a comparison, you shouldn't be taking two extremes. Like you shouldn't be saying top management has authority over the whole organization and lower level management, um, like maybe you can say deals with daily operations. Although those are two facts and they are correct, they need to relate to each other. So you can say top management governs the organization, has authority of the whole organization, whereas lower level management has governs the employees who have direct contact with clients. Okay, so that's what you can say. It's like it's on the same scale, it's along the same line, and it's easy to make a comparison as such. Okay, um, contrast. Contrast also comes up sometimes, very rarely. Sometimes they'll use compare instead of contrast, but here you're just focusing on the differences. So again, when they are asking for you to contrast something, contrast is like opposites or like big differences. So you are taking two more things, and you are just stating what is the difference between the two of them. So when you're looking at compare, it can be similar or it can be different. But when you're looking at contrast, usually they're asking for the polar opposites of each thing. Okay, so how does this really differ from this? Okay, so if you're contrasting top management and lower level management, you are taking something from top management. Maybe they are setting strategic goals and you're contrasting that. And so you'll say lower level management is doing operational goals. Okay, so those are completely contrasted. Then you have to critically evaluate. Okay, this is also something that is asked a lot in exams or tests and assignments. So when you are asked to critically evaluate, you are giving a balanced judgment by considering both strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so remember, an evaluation is looking at all aspects. It's not only positives and it's not only negatives. An evaluation is giving everything. So think about when you evaluate yourself, you are giving your positive attributes and your negative attributes. It's a full self evaluation. So when you are being asked to evaluate a specific topic or specific thing, especially if it's a critical evaluation, you need to give an in-depth explanation of everything that this topic is related to. Okay, so strengths, weaknesses, positives, negatives, um, positive impacts, negative impacts, all of those things. Okay. Then you could be asked to define. This one also comes up a lot in a test or an exam. When you are defining something, you are providing a clear, precise meaning or explanation of a term. So you are providing, like, for example, if you look at entrepreneurship, you need to clearly state what an entrepreneur is. Okay, that's a clear definition. And then sometimes when you're asked to define, they'll ask you for an in-depth explanation of it. So you just go further and define what that is. But students make a mistake with this when they are asked to define something, they will start to give random facts about what they are being asked. Okay, when you are defining something, you are just giving an explanation of what it is. So if you think about a vision statement, and if you're being asked to define a vision statement, you'll say the vision statement is one goal or aim that all employees of an organization can relate to, or it is a statement that is developed by the business to help guide the strategic goals of the company. Okay, those are definitions. Those are defining what a vision statement is. What it is not is then to say a good vision statement has the following, or a vision statement creates a competitive advantage, that is not defining what it is. Those are stating facts about it. So remember, when you're defining, you are giving the meaning of something, the meaning or the explanation of that term. So please remember that for your exam, because in the test, when you are asked to define, some people, some students didn't know how to define something. Okay, so just make sure that you have an understanding of that. And then to describe, this is another one that's very close to define. Okay, so you're giving a detailed account of what something is, what happens, or how something works. So if you are told to describe a vision statement, for example, here you are giving a definition of it, but you are describing what it is. So a vision statement is a statement that can assist the business in this way, creating a strategic goal. You can say goals can be derived from this. That is giving a description of or detailed account of what a vision statement is. So when you're describing, usually you are giving more to it. Okay, you're describing in depth what you mean to say. Okay. Also just when they're asking you to state something. So here you're presenting your point or fact, or you are just briefly giving like bullet points. Okay, so sometimes they'll say state 3 facts about or state 3 characteristics of an entrepreneur. Okay, so here you just usually list your 3 facts. Yeah, this one is also quite easy to understand. They're asking you to summarize. They're just asking you to present key ideas in a concise form. So leaving out details or example. Okay, so here when you're asked to summarize something, you are being told to give a short, brief explanation of something. Okay, without going in depth with it. So I noticed a lot with the test, if you were asked to just give like a brief explanation of something, a lot of students will give you like a full page of an answer. Please try to um, like adhere to what you are being asked. So if it's asking for a brief explanation, try to keep it brief but specific and at the same time detailed. But you can have a brief, a brief, detailed explanation of something. Okay. Okay, some other things that we'll try to get through. So discuss. So here you are exploring different perspectives or arguments. So discuss comes up a lot. Okay, so it's in your assignment as well. Here you are presenting evidence and you are reaching a conclusion. So if it's asking you to discuss the importance of entrepreneurship, you are looking at different perspectives. And that's why I said to you in the assignment, you need to do external research. You need to look into journal articles. You need to look into your textbook. You need to look into maybe perhaps your lecturer has discussed it in class and you took down notes. Look at all of those different things. Look at the different perspectives, different arguments. A discussion is where you can have multiple versions of something, or you can sometimes even make a point with the discussion. So if you asked to discuss the importance of entrepreneurship, you can talk about, well, your textbook defines entrepreneur as such, but most researchers believe that entrepreneurship is defined as this, etc. Okay, so you can have something that contradicts itself. You can have an argumentative discussion. Okay, but to discuss something, you are just exploring different ideas, different versions of something. You are exploring different sources of information. Okay, and you're putting it together. Then you have to evaluate. So here you are judging the importance, the effectiveness, or the value. Okay, so here you're providing pros and cons. Again, When you are evaluating something, you need to ensure that you are looking at the effectiveness. Okay, evaluate is also in your assignment. So judging the importance, judging the effectiveness or value. Okay, so take maybe they'll ask you to evaluate the let's take the characteristics and skills of an entrepreneur and to evaluate it to employees in Pick and Pay. Sorry, not employees, but the entrepreneurs in SA. Okay, so you will take skills, characteristics of entrepreneurs. You're looking at these skills, you're going in depth, you're giving explanations of them, and you are evaluating them against what we have in SA. So you are giving valuable information, you're giving effectiveness, you are giving any pros and cons. So maybe you are saying that our labor force is weak, therefore, we will lack in certain skills with entrepreneurship, okay, etc. So that is giving an evaluation. Usually your evaluation does include you having to do additional research. Okay, so looking into your like journal articles, your textbook, make sure that you have those. Okay, and then to examine. So here you are just investigating closely. An examination also is very close to an analysis because you are also taking information, you're investigating something. So you are asked to examine the effects of technology in businesses of today. You are looking at all the information surrounding this. So anything that could affect businesses of today in regards to technology and like reasons, causes, or anything, pros, cons. We're just taking that, you're looking at it in depth. Okay. To be asked to identify something, here you are just pointing out or listing something specific. This is also in your assignment. Okay, so it's just asking you for like a specific. It's usually they don't ask for, or it's not required to give an explanation unless they ask you. So unless they say identify and explain. And that's why they do say identify and explain, because if they just said identify, it would just mean give a short, brief list or bullet point. But when you identify and explain, you are giving a full explanation. Okay. Then we have illustrate. So to use examples, diagrams, or evidence to make a point clear. Okay, when you're illustrating something, you are figuratively painting a picture for someone. So you're giving them an idea of what you mean through the use of examples. So sometimes in an exam, they will ask you to illustrate your understanding of something. It just means to provide an example, or sometimes they can actually ask you to draw a diagram or collect evidence to prove a point or to make a point clear. All that it is that you're just trying to make your point or validate your point by using examples. Okay. When it comes to interpret, you are tasked to explain the meaning of something. Okay, so you are tasked with actually explaining something. Usually it is like they'll give you a case study or they'll give you like a text or something specific. Maybe is a definition and they will ask you to interpret it. Okay, so sometimes if you've given a case study, you can be asked to interpret the case study. Okay, so that's also easy peasy, easy to understand. If you are being asked to justify, this is also something that you'll find in a lot of assessments. Sometimes you'll even find this in your exam. So here you are providing reasons and evidence to support a decision. So if you are saying something, if you have made a point, or if you have given an answer, you are providing evidence to support this answer. Okay, so if, for example, they're asking you to define which level of management is referred to in the case study, and you give a level of management, and they ask you to justify that, you are just taking information from the case study that will support your theory. So anything from there that will say, like, this is one of the characteristics of this level of management, and therefore this is why it is this level of management. So justification just helps you to provide reasoning. It helps you to make your point more evident, more clear, and also more credible. So when you are asked to justify something, it makes it more credible. It allows other people to trust that what you are saying, or sometimes it's even an opinion. Sometimes they'll ask you to state your opinion or something, or what you think like would be the case, and they'll ask you to justify it. So you have to give your opinion and then justify why you're saying it. So what evidence can you use to back yourself up? Okay, so that's also very easy to understand. And then list. So this is easy. You're just listing some points. It's usually also very short form, no explanation needed unless they say list and explain. So always make sure you read all your keywords, because sometimes they'll use two of them. They can say list and interpret, list and justify, list and explain, list and examine. It can be anything. They can say discuss and explain. They can say identify and explain. So they can use these keywords together in a question. Okay, sometimes they'll say outline. So you're giving a summary of some points, some main points that have been made. Or if they ask you to explain, you are making something clear by describing how, or by describing what it is. Okay, so these keywords, please just keep them around, save it, take a picture of it, because it's very beneficial, it's very helpful to always have just an explanation of what these keywords mean, because sometimes when you have a text, like maybe an assignment or an assessment, and they are asking you these questions in there, sometimes it can be a little confusing and you don't know how to answer it appropriately. You don't know what is the best way to answer the question. So to avoid confusion, to avoid any possible mistakes or errors, or sometimes a student will get the content correct, but they haven't answered the question fully because they didn't do what the question said to do. So for example, if the question asked you to interpret something, which means to provide reasons and evidence, not to provide, sorry, to just provide evidence on what you mean, or to unpack something and analyze that, maybe students would have listed it. Okay, so try to like read this on your own, understand it, so that when your exam does come around, okay, you have 3 weeks. So try to get a good grasp on this. I promise you it will help so much. Some key things for your exam. So I will be having another master class closer to your exam period. That will be specifically like the rest of the learning units that we need to cover in order for you to be prepared for your exam. In the meantime, I would highly suggest that you start making summaries. So once you have completed your assignment, once it's submitted, or even before that, you can start almost immediately. Start making summaries. You have a lot of theory to unpack for your exam. So I would definitely say start making summaries for yourself. Use your slides, your lecture slides, use your textbook, make your own summaries. What is really helpful when studying a lot of theory is repeatedly reading something over and over again, using lots of color, making it or dividing it into small segments so that it's easier to comprehend. When you are studying straight from your textbook, especially the volume of work that you're required to study, when you are reading from your textbook, it is a lot and it's very overwhelming. And you don't want to sit with your textbook and then be confused, feel the pressure, and then sometimes you just clock out of studying because you don't feel like it's beneficial. You don't feel like you're absorbing anything. If you start now, there will be no pressure involved with you summarizing notes for yourself because you're doing it purely in preparation for your exam. So you're not doing it because you're writing an exam tomorrow. You're doing it because you have a few weeks and you know you have that time. So start making the summaries. It will help you. It will also help you feel less stressed out when it comes closer to the time. And if you have all your summaries, like I would suggest writing them down on paper because when you're writing something, it's proven that you're just able to remember it a lot better. Highlight it, use lots of color as well. That's also very beneficial when you want to remember something. Try to keep your summaries, don't make them bulky, don't make your summaries too thick. So you want to actually have like maybe between I'd say like 5 to 7 pages of work, like of summary on a like of your textbook and your slides. Staple those, and then when it comes closer to your exam time, if you just pull those out and start reading them, start mastering what definitions are, what are some important facts about certain things like a vision statement. Just remember what it is, remember what your mission statement is, remember what some external factors are, how to do those analysis, remember what management is, HR management, all of those things. When you start to actually do those things and when you start to actually write your summaries, reading them day by day slowly, you find that closer to the exam time, you are a lot less stressed. And also, it really helps you with just remembering a lot better. Okay, because if you're studying the night before, which I do not recommend, if you're studying the night before, chances of you remembering, there is a good chance that you will remember, but there's also a chance that you could completely blank out because you are so stressed out. So don't take those chances. You have all been exposed to what your test situation would be like. So for an exam, remember your tests were out of 50. For your exam, you will be sitting with a paper that's out of 120. So you need, it's almost double. Okay, it's a little bit more. Um, so you need to actually like mentally prepare yourself for that. Okay, make sure that you know your content. That's why I say make your summaries. And then also, as you're making your summaries, you'll find that there's certain areas that maybe you don't understand. It's easier to go ask your lecturer for assistance in that case than freaking out last minute because you don't understand the content. Okay, so try and have all of this together so that you can actually study early and complete things on time. But as for this assignment, make sure that you do complete it early. Okay, it's very important that you do not submit late. Make sure that your referencing is good. So again, if you have a writing center on your campus, if you can go to the library perhaps and just get information on, you know, uh, your referencing and how you can make it better. And you need to look at all of those things. So you need to look at where you're making mistakes. And it's easy to make mistakes. People make mistakes all the time, but just make sure that you are correcting those mistakes before you submit. Another thing that I want to discuss about your assignment is the issue of plagiarism. Now, there are some people that still do plagiarize, even though it has been stressed that you should not be plagiarizing. Even if you have not intended to plagiarize, if you don't reference correctly, it is still plagiarizing. So please make sure that you actually are paraphrasing. And sometimes students will change one or two words in a sentence and think they have now created their own sentence. It doesn't work like that. You need to completely reword that sentence. Okay? Don't use synonyms to help you change words. Put it into your own understanding. So take a definition and go practice this in your textbook. Just read your textbook, read a definition, and then try to word it in a way that you would understand, in the way that you would explain it. This helps so much in a test and exam because you don't have to use the technique of memorization. Sometimes when you rely on memorizing something, it's risky because what happens if you suddenly forget that? You know, then you have no understanding of it. But if you read to understand and if you can interpret it and put it into your own words, then when it comes time to write an exam or a test, you already have an idea of what that is, even if you don't have the exact like word for word definition of something, you have an understanding of it, so you are able to put it into your own words. This is a skill that you should master. So you should be able to look into your textbook and create your own understandings. Take any definition, start practicing it, and start putting it into your own words. Okay, so that's very important. So plagiarism can be a big issue if you don't reference correctly, and then there are some students that do think they can get away with actually plagiarizing, and they will maybe copy and paste, okay, or will paste from an AI source. Please do not do that, okay? Your Turnitin report is able to pick up all of um, these little tricks. So try to not do any of those things. Okay. Um, don't even use paraphrasing tools just to be safe, because sometimes it's not used correctly. The system can pick it up. It can be a mess. So try to stay away from all of those things. Okay, so if you guys have any questions or any like some common questions is like especially for your exam, like students want to know if you do memorize something and you do write it word for word in your exam, if it's plagiarizing. In that context, because you're being asked a question and you're answering it, you're not claiming that that information is yours, then no, you should be good to do that. Okay. But I always like to say, just for practice purposes, just put things in your own words, because even if it's just a test or an exam and you are giving word for word definitions, and yeah, you are giving word for word definitions, you still want to have the skill of putting it into your own words and giving your own understanding of something. Okay, it's different if it's keywords. So it's different if it's like key concepts that you have to state, like top management, middle, and lower. Like you can't change those too much. So those key concepts can stay the same, but try to practice giving an explanation in your own words. Okay, other common assignment questions. Sometimes students want to know if the theory that they have stated, if it came from their own mind or if it's something they learned in high school and they just remember it, how do they reference that, or should they reference that? You absolutely need to reference everything that is not your own idea. Okay, so if you remembered a definition of top management from high school and you are giving your own little explanation, you need to ask yourself, what makes you a credible source? Why should I trust your definition of top management? Okay. Um, so yeah, ask yourself that. Will you trust something that was said by someone, or an explanation from someone who maybe is not qualified in that, or if there's no evidence to back that person's claim up? So it's the same thing in this regard. If you are stating something, and if you are taking an understanding or a definition of something, you still have to do your research to go and identify if that is actually factual, if that actually makes sense. So say you do remember a definition of top management from high school, and you do decide to write it in your own words, for example, you still need to go find a credible source that'll back up what you are saying, which means you will still need to reference. Okay, so try not to do that. Try not to uh, have the argument of this is my own idea because it came from my mind, because you learned it from someplace. Okay, you didn't invent the concept of top management, it came from somewhere. So you always need to reference your work. And referencing your work is not only um, about giving credit where it's due to that source, but it's also about making your work credible to read, because you are giving a factual piece of evidence. You are justifying it in a factual way. So what you are providing is credible. It's credible information. So that is why referencing is important, because it makes people trust your work. It makes your work reliable. It makes it honest. It makes it relevant. So when you actually are in the real world and you're working and you are expected to write reports and research studies and all of these things, people want to see credible research. People want to see credible evidence. So you need to be able to provide that. So that is why we stress referencing, because it is a part of creating reliancy and relevancy. Okay, please try to not do this assignment the night before, like I said. Although there are some people that do try to do it 2 days before, sometimes 3 days before, it is cutting it very close. If you look at these mark allocations, they are quite large. So you want to take your time to properly dissect everything. The same for your upcoming exam. You only have 2 hours to complete the paper. Okay, so you don't have too much time to go highlight and make keynotes and things like that. But when you are doing your assignment, it's almost like practice. Okay, so it's practice. So you, as you are now, like you did your test, you're now doing your assignment, you are getting acquainted with the way things are being asked. So when it comes to your actual exam, you will you'll feel like a pro, because you already know like what a question means when it's asking you to explain, for example, when it's asking you for an explanation, when it's asking you to identify, when it's asking you to analyze. You won't be spending too much time on those questions, because you already have a good understanding of what it's asking you, how you can apply yourself, etc. And some students like to ask if there's going to be a case study in the exam, or if you're going to have to do an essay in the exam. Um, that I cannot tell you for a fact if there will be either of those there. The likelihood of a case study is like very likely, because you should always get a case study, either a case study or a small text block. Okay, but you always have something, some type of something that your questions can be focused on. Your exam is usually also broken into short questions and long questions. please look at past papers. Okay, we will, in our masterclass for your exam, we will go back and we'll discuss like looking at past papers and those types of things. But for those of you who want to start studying now, once your assignment is submitted, then please look at past papers. It will give you a good understanding of what an exam is likely to look like. Okay, it changes, so it could change, but just to practice your questions and to practice how to answer, those are important. Okay, our next masterclass will be the 1st of June, I believe. The 1st of June or the 1st of July, but I think it's the 1st of July. So please do stay like look out for the links. Please be aware of that. So it would be very nice for you guys to actually join the masterclass in July so that we can go through revision for your exam. Okay. It's a lot of theory, guys. So even for your assignment, this is a lot of theory that you are getting yourself acquainted with. So please take your time with this and start studying well in advance, because it is a lot of theory for you to have a good understanding of everything, and for you to be able to master application and master explaining things and describing and analyzing. You need to start doing it in advance. Okay, and that way also you just feel more confident when you are actually writing your paper. So for your test, I don't know who here has started studying like the night before, but you would notice like if you study the night before, or even 2 nights before, it is very stressful on the day. You just feel like you're forgetting something. You feel like there's more that you need to know. You feel like there's pieces of information missing. But when you actually study in advance, you feel very calm going into your exam. And actually when you panic, you forget a lot of things. Okay, so to remain calm, you have to master that skill. You have to, so that when you're actually writing your paper, you remember what you studied. Okay, for this assignment, please do not work with a friend. Do not send your assignment to your friends. Do not send your answers to friends. Do not do not copy your friend's work. Okay, please just remember those things. Try to stay away from the Wikipedia, from the Investopedia. Try to use only credible sources. Ask your lecturer to help you get on those platforms. EBSCO-host, you can use Google Scholar. There are lots of free journal articles. You just have to look. So it does take a bit of time. Okay, so doing external research, sometimes it can be quite taxing, because you do have to really look for journals that have what you're looking for, first of all. And then a lot of journals are not free, but then there are those open access journals that you will find. It just takes a bit of searching, but make sure that you do that, because even when it comes to like when you are in the real world, when you started working and those types of things, you'll see how important doing additional research is. It's very important because it also shapes your understanding. It gives you more perspectives. It gives you more opinions. It gives you a different outlook on something. So always do additional research to shape your understanding of something. Use your textbook as a basic outline, as your foundational layer. So if you're being asked to talk about top, middle, and lower, use your textbook as the foundation of that answer. Answer the question according to, like, answer with what's in the textbook, and then elaborate and use additional sources. That's what I recommend, because like I said, when you use additional information throughout and you don't use your textbook, sometimes the answers can be very different from what is expected of you, and it can be borderline incorrect. So just to make sure that you are on the right page, that you are doing what is being asked of you and you're doing it correctly, just make sure that you are looking at your textbook as a foundational aspect. Okay, so any other questions that you guys have that you would like me to go through? Please feel free to email me, contact your lecturers. Let them know if you have any concerns as well. Let them know, and I will try to assist you guys if you need anything. In the last session, you guys did take my email, so those who have it, if you can just share it to those who need it, okay, and help them out. This assignment, please, like I said, make sure that you submit on time. So please go and check your pass for when your due date is. You need to make sure that you are submitting on time. A lot of students do submit an hour later, sometimes 2 hours later, sometimes it's a whole day later. Please make sure you're not one of these students, okay? It's very, very important that you actually submit on time. Other important things that you need to do is just make sure your in-texts are correct, your reference list is there. Start your assignment now, guys. Like, don't procrastinate this. This is a lot of work that you have to do. It's 100 marks. Okay, this is a big percentage of your final mark for semester one. So you need to actually put in the work. For those of you who didn't do so well in your tests, this is a good opportunity for you to get those marks up. So use it, take this opportunity. It's not impossible to get an A for your assignment. A lot of the time, students will think that no, it's like, what you're writing is not enough, your content is not enough, all of these things. But if you really just follow through with what is being asked, if you break down the questions like I told you, if you use your textbook, if you use additional sources, if you know how to apply yourself, you can easily get an A for this assignment. Like I said, go through, because you do have some time, go through the case study, go through the questions, highlight bits of the case study that you feel is relation to that question. It helps so much. Even if you don't start your assignment today, and you're planning on only starting it maybe on Friday, for example, still read through it. It doesn't take long to just read through the document, highlight your important things so that when you actually do it, it's so much easier. It's so much easier. It's just lighter, less stressful. Okay, make sure that you read your cover page. Your cover page has instructions on it. That is very important for you to read. Okay, please make sure that when you do submit your assignment, you are not submitting an incorrect file. Not even an incorrect file, but a corrupted file. So what you need to do is when you submit your work, check that the document is able to be opened. Because what happens sometimes is when a student submits their work, it is a corrupted file and the lecturer is not able to open it on the other side, which means that there's no submission that shows up, and that can also be quite a tedious process now to get you to resubmit and those types of things. So right from the start, and this is why we say submit early, because when you do submit early, you are able to check these things. So on the day of submission, even the day before, submit your work, check that everything's in order, check that the file can be opened. All of those things need to be checked. Do not submit very close to your deadline, to the deadline time. So if your deadline time is midnight, do not start submitting at 11:58. Even 11:50 is cutting it very close. You want to submit a couple hours before that so you have enough time to rectify any possible errors or any possible mistakes that you could encounter. Okay, please, please, please try your level best to submit early. I know that sometimes if you guys start last minute, it's not really easy to do so, but you need to try your best. Okay, it is very important that you do submit your work early. And then check your files. And then it's important to have um, a copy of your assignment so that when you do actually submit it, if there's anything that's wrong with your assignment, you can always resubmit, or you can have it as evidence that this is your work and nothing has changed, etc., etc. Okay, and then one last thing that I want to tell you that I did briefly tell you in the beginning. So it please do not use AI. There are cases where your lecturer will maybe tell you that you're allowed to. Maybe they'll tell you how you can use it effectively, how you can use it to help you. But when I say don't use AI, I'm telling you not to copy and paste off of AI. I'm telling you not to use that as a source for your answers because it cannot be a credible source. You are safer to go ahead and do the hard work yourself than to get caught for the use of AI or for copying and pasting your assignment. So please do not do that. Adhere to what your lecturers are telling you as well. Okay, so if they are telling you something or instructing you to do something, then please adhere to that. So if you are unsure of something, please do email me or email your lecturer so that I can help you if you're having any concerns. If you are in an instance where you do get caught for the use of AI or plagiarizing, you will get called in and you will be asked to provide evidence to show that you did not. And this is usually very hard to do. So what I would say that you do is to make sure that you are actually saving your work. So after you have answered a question, save your work. Just make sure that your autosave is on so that you can actually prove it, because there are people that sometimes are innocent in these cases and don't know how to prove themselves. So you want to make sure that you have your evidence to back you up and you can actually provide them with the evidence if in the event that you are suspected of plagiarizing when you did not. For the students that actually do plagiarize, please do not do that, okay? Do not take the chance at this stage of your academic journey. It is taken very, very seriously, and I can assure you that you will not get away with plagiarizing. So don't even consider it. There are students that start their assignment very last minute and then quickly try to like copy and paste or copy another student's work. Do not do that type of thing. Okay, you will get flagged. It will not be nice. So you need to try and make sure your work is as authentic as possible. It is credible. It is referenced correctly and all of those things. Okay, so any other questions that you guys might have or any other concerns that you guys might have, please do try to stay in contact with me or ask your lecturers, perhaps. Like I said, we will be having another masterclass session in July. If the date changes, it will be communicated to you, and you can join that class just if you want to go through revision. And or if you have any questions, you can join the class and ask me during the master class. But the master class is very helpful just to refresh your mind on everything from the beginning. So we most likely will not be going in detail with the first couple learning units because we did that in the previous master class, and you guys can maybe go back to that recording if you want an in-depth of that, but we will be focusing more on the rest of the learning units that you need to look into. Okay, remember your exam contains everything that all of your learning units. Please go and look into your module guide for assistance with that. Okay, so sometimes a lot of the questions that I get asked is what chapters, what learning units, what sections. Your module outline will provide you with all of these details. Okay, so please look at that. Go now, download your module outline, go scroll to the bottom, look at what learning units are included in your test and your exam. Of course, your test is over, but mostly your exam, it is all your learning units. So you need to look at each learning unit and what each learning unit requires you to know. And then also it does have your chapters, and it's easier. Then you can look into your textbook for those learning units. Okay. So please go and do this beforehand, because I know that there are some people that have no idea what they need to learn for the exam, but get your module outlines now so that you have an understanding. And then when you join the masterclass in July, you have a better understanding. Okay, so that is all for our session today. I hope this was very helpful. And I hope that you guys maybe understood everything. This recording will be saved, so if you need to go back and listen to it and just revise everything that we went through, please do so. And if you have any questions, please do contact me. Okay, thank you guys.